Hello, welcome to Mountain Jim Card Collectibles. Hope you're having a great day. So, I've been keeping an eye on some of these big, downtown, uptown Panini insert sales. And don't get me wrong, I like downtown and uptown to an extent. I just tend to believe they're overvalued for the fact that, well, they're an insert card. Insert cards are great. I've been looking at insert cards most of my life, and maybe they have some artificial scarcity, one of ones. But I just scratched my head on, the value of this product for the fact I just feel like the reason you all love downtowns is because a bunch of breakers love downtowns. They got to hype them up. They're a nice design. They remind me of like a comic book design. But some of the prices on them, I just don't know if they're justified. For instance, that's what takes me to this card. That's coming up for an auction here pretty soon. And it's this Caitlin Clark, 2024 Rookie Royalty, WNBA Green Kaboom, 1 of 1. It was graded a BGS Pristine 10. And they're asking, right out the gate around $50,000 for this card. And it's a green card, I'll be honest, green typically isn't my favorite for a lot of cards, Green, forest green, I sell a lot of cards. But the thing about this card is, you have to look at her career so far. And I really like Caitlin Clark. So if you're a big Caitlin Clark fan, I don't mean to step on your toes, all right? Because I like her too, And we can look at the some of the numbers on this BGS. Centering is a 10, edges is 10, corners is 10, surface is a 9.5. So it's not your perfect card, but like it says here, and this was written by Ben Burrows. It was just released yesterday, August 12th, 2025, and it's on Clicked. It says here, the next milestone in the Caitlin Clark trading card market will likely arrive next month when the most important insert card sells in the 2025 Summer Golden 100. Lot number 1 in the auction, bidding for Clark's 2024 Rookie Royalty WNBA Green Kaboom 1 of 1, will open Monday with a starting price of $50,000. Yeah, that to me, I mean, that is a lot of cash, a lot of dough. $50,000, in this world, you can do a lot. You can survive. I'm guessing that someone who purchases this would be an investment, and they're hoping to make, a decent profit. Kaboom cards feature comic book inspired art and carry a significant premium on the secondary market. Then, like it says here, and we'll get more into this, the highest recorded sale for a Kaboom of any athlete is a $225,000 paid in private sale for a 2018 LeBron James Gold Kaboom of 10 in 2024. Okay. So, to an extent, this card is kind of sucking the oxygen out of the room to an extent. I mean, it's a nice designed card. I can't say it's not. The question I have for people who would purchase this card is, how far do you believe Caitlin Clark's going to go? I mean, let's just say that, this injury that she currently has, let's say it took her out of the league. It takes her out, her career is over, which I highly doubt. I doubt that would ever happen. I mean, she looks fairly healthy to me. The issue with the Caitlin Clark Kaboom card is it's almost eclipsing Caitlin Clark now, isn't it? Caitlin Clark, last game was on Tuesday, July 15th, 2025 against the Connecticut Sun, where the Indiana Fever won 79-71. She exited the game with 38 seconds left to a groin injury. Now, how soon will she be back? Well, hopefully by next season, because this season's, winding down. But then, when you look at the stats, this is really where the dots don't connect. Yes, Caitlin Clark has a big name, but this is a sports league, and this is sports, and this is basketball. And what gets me is how the entire card collecting community, more or less, sweeps the entire league underneath the rug while hyping up a player that, let's face it, is a ghost. For instance, this is the WNBA, and here is, wins-loss record. Okay. So who has the most wins? The Minnesota Lynx has 27 wins, 5 losses. Can you name the best player on that team? If you're a card collector, I'm just putting that out there. Can you name the best player on the Minnesota Lynx team? Because I honestly can't. I know Caitlin Clark. Is that what's going on here? Is we can't seem to, put the correct figures on the stats for the players, and so it's when you look at the WNBA, there's like only one player in the WNBA, and that's Caitlin Clark. But there's a whole league of players. And so the Minnesota Lynx has, the most wins, 27 wins, 5 losses. New York Liberty has 21 wins, 11 losses. The Atlanta Dream has 20 wins, 11 losses. We keep going down, so we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sixth place is the Indiana Fever. All right. So that's where Caitlin Clark's at. Now, you look at how far she is away from, say, the Lynx. She's close. They're close to Liberty, within, a few games away. But the Lynx are definitely dominating the whole league. But yet, no one's talking about the players for the Lynx. All right. So then we can dig into some of the stats. Okay. So for offensive leaders, and no surprise, would be a player for the Minnesota Lynx, Nafisa Collier. No one talks about her. Why would they? Well, she's not Caitlin Clark. All right. So let's just go, down the stat list. And let's see if Caitlin Clark is even on here. Well, we have Angel Reese. People give Angel Reese all sorts of, but, there's no Caitlin Clark. Angel Reese is in 24th. Let's keep going down here. We have Aaliyah Boston. She's in 18th. She's with the Fever. Anyone else? I'm just not seeing any Caitlin Clark. All right. Considering that her card is, fetching a price right out the gate on a Kaboom 1-of-1 green for $50,000. All right, so that's offensive leaders. Now, another chart which I would typically look at and see Caitlin Clark on would be our 3-point leaders, okay? Well, at the top of the list is once again a Minnesota Lynx player, because they are the highest rated team, most wins. Kayla McBride has the most 3-pointers made. Let's look at the complete leaders. Considering, that Caitlin Clark has a $50,000 Kaboom for sale, I would expect her to be on here. Minnesota Lynx, Kayla McBride. No one talks about her. Why? It's the WNBA. All we talk about with the WNBA is Caitlin Clark. I'm looking to see if she's even on this list. She's been injured for a while. Sorry. Caitlin Clark is a ghost for stats for the 2025. I mean, she just really is. I mean, at the end of the season, is she going to come back and do anything? Or is she going to be, a ghost to the very end? I mean, Paige Beckers, came in the big hot rookie. She isn't exactly, tearing up the stats either. I mean, here she is in 42nd place. And, it's just not too overly impressive. That's just it about the cards that are selling for Caitlin Clark, and this auction that's coming up is, if this was any other league, if this was the MLB, if this was the NFL, if this was, well, not necessarily, but typically with the NBA, people would be chasing those players with the big stats. Now, defensive leaders, Angel Reese is sitting at top. It's the number one place. So I'm just going to say the number one players. Okay, so offensive leaders. First place, Nafisa Collier of Minnesota Lynx, 23.5 points. Okay, assists, Alyssa Thomas with the Phoenix team, 9 points. Kayla McBride with the Minnesota Lynx, 3-pointers made, has 2.7. All right, so she's up there. Okay, we now have the defensive leaders. We have Angel Reese with 12.6 rebounds, Aja Wilson for blocks with 2.1 blocks, and Gabby Williams for most steals, and she's with the Seattle Storm. Okay. Nobody really gives any of these players much credit, honestly. I mean, whether it be Aja Wilson, a little bit for Angel Reese, but Aja Wilson, if you look at these charts, she is all over him. I mean, she really is. She's, has the most blocks, second most, for defensive leaders with 9.6 rebounds. As far as offensive leaders, Aja Wilson has 22.2 points. But these players, they just don't carry the name of Caitlin Clark. They just don't. And they can play their hearts out. They can win game after game. They can have the best stats. They can be on the best team in the league, and they are still swept under the rug in favor of, card sales like this. $50,000. And let's be honest here, is you're not going to find Caitlin Clark in any of the stats in the current WNBA charts. That's just it. There is such a major disconnect between sports cards and the sports leagues that it is really kind of mind-blowing to an extent, isn't it? That they can hype up a player to the point, that her cards are selling for, major amounts of cash, even a one-of-one green Kaboom of all things that doesn't have an autograph or anything on it. And the player whose card is being sold is literally almost like Casper the Friendly Ghost in the WNBA. I mean, if you look through the stats, she's a ghost. So how do you feel about these hyped up Kabooms that don't have any autographs or really, a legitimate value to an extent? I mean, down the road, I just don't see the value holding up on Kabooms, unless they're continually being hyped up. The hype train's going to have to keep hyping them up. The downtowns, the uptowns, And then when it comes to the WNBA, there is such a massive disconnect between sports card collectors, sports card investors, and the actual stats in the league. You know what I mean? I just went over it. You can hit those stats too. You're not going to see Caitlin Clark anywhere on any of those stat charts, at least in the upper echelons. Now, maybe if you can get the full charts and you keep grinding down to the very bottom, maybe she'll pull up because she hasn't played for a while. But my point being is we went over the best players, and she's just nowhere to be found for a lot of reasons. So when is the sports card realm going to start to connect the dots with the WNBA? That's just it. Is it ever going to happen? I know when I go to my local card shop, I have seen more women sports card collectors going in for certain WNBA players. And they're not just collecting Caitlin Clark, but let's face it, there's obviously not a big population of these collectors out there. And so the players they're picking up even are just still getting swept under the rug. And the prices on these Kabooms are just outrageous. I just couldn't imagine spending $50,000 on a green Kaboom 1 of 1 of Caitlin Clark. I could never do it. Even if I was like a billionaire, I'd be like, well, I'm making decisions, that are more based on a business situation to an extent than gambling in our casino economy. Because, this is another aspect of living in a casino economy. Someone who could spend $50,000 on a card, well, they could turn around and open up a $50,000 local business and help out the community a lot more than spending $50,000 on a card and crossing their fingers that everything's going to turn out peachy down the road and they're going to make a profit. That's what I mean is what you're seeing with a lot of these cards is an imbalance of our current economy. We live in a casino economy where people would prefer to invest money in the stock market, maybe sports cards, maybe real estate, over investing in starting, local businesses and really lifting up communities. And it's kind of a sad state of affairs. I've collected sports cards my whole life. I just never thought that they'd turn into the Frankenstein that they've, been turned into. Anyway, how do you feel about this? If you feel differently, leave some comments. I'd like to thank my subscribers and my recent subscribers. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. I don't say it enough. Anyway, I hope you have a great day. I'm out of here. Bye.